just wanted to start with a general overview of how to get into Confluence and how to use it. After you get your username and password, go ahead and type those in and log on. Those of you who have access to multiple councils will have this changed council link up in the top, and this lets you pick which organization you want to look at. So me being an admin, I see them all, but we're going to go ahead and zero in on our demo watershed council for today. So once you collect that, you can then see the data for that particular council. So each organization's data is separate from the other organizations. So you can think of it kind of a sandbox where you get to store your own data. And you could, if you have access to multiple councils or orgs like the SANIAM and Calpuya do, you can jump around to those other sandboxes using that changed council link. We also promote good security practices, so be sure you change your password frequently, or after you get a new password from support, please go ahead and select a new password that you can remember. And as always, I recommend using a password safe, such as LastPass or the like, to make sure that you have strong passwords and aren't reusing the same passwords between different websites. Just a little PSA there. If you want to log off the tool, you can go ahead and click log off, and the help can get the help area can be accessed here. We do plan to post this training to the help area in the future, so you can get back to it from going there. And then if you ever get into trouble, have a question, can't get in, go ahead and click the support request and enter in your request, and that will get routed into our support system. And JP, Steve, or myself will be able to answer whoever is free and available, can get back to you more quickly. I know a lot of times support requests have gone directly to me, but I'm a bit of a bottleneck sometimes because I'm off doing other things and not paying attention to my inbox as much as I should. So go ahead and use that support request feature to get in quickly.
But using that support request in the app will get you to the right support person most quickly, and we'll get your question answered most quickly.
Great. Okay, let's look at the help really quick. Wanted to talk about what's in Confluence and the kind of data that you can manage in here. The original concept around Confluence is that you can manage your contacts that you're working with in your community, both the people and organizations as well. And these little diagrams are helpful because as you get into the system, you'll note that you need to kind of keep track of this in your own head a little bit. The system's a very thin user interface on top of the database structure. So this represents the database model. What we call the database model is geeks. And if you have this some familiarity with how these are structured when using the system, that'll help you navigate a little more quickly through adding things into the system. So here we have the first area, which are contacts. It's made up of a person, and a person can belong to an organization. Can have many phone numbers. They can have a physical address. You can document communications with people by keeping notes, and you can also include them into contact lists. So these are important because these relationships are important because these are the types of things that you'll be adding to the person. You'll go ahead and add a phone number or add a contact or add them to a contact list. And so this is a diagram which shows you the different things that you can add to that person. Likewise, we have a similar model for landowners. So landowners are pretty much one of the main outreach records that are maintained in the system. And when you go talk to a new landowner or you track discussions with a landowner and trying to get permission to do work on their land, You go ahead and keep track of that progress here by entering status records, entering the tax lots that they're responsible for, entering the owner or contact for that landowner record, and you do that by specifying a person or an organization. You can keep notes about landowners. You can figure out what permissions they granted to you for access, which programs they've enrolled in, which site the work is being done on for them, and any potential project activities that you might be doing for that landowner. And then also additionally, any restrictions that you've agreed to with that landowner. At this point, just wanted to check in, JP, if this is the right speed for everybody there and if things are going according to plan.
Yeah, I think we're good over here.
Okay, excellent. So once you've done your outreach and you've gotten permission to work on the property for this landowner, you'll dive off into the world of projects and site activities. And so from here, you'll see there's a site which belongs to a landowner. That's where we just came from. And you can create many site activities. And so a project can have many site activities, and there's different types of site activities. Depending on if you're a watershed council or a soil and water conservation district, the site activities work a little bit differently. So we can go into some of that later. Today, I'm going to demo primarily how the watershed council site activities work. Projects can also track budget, any contractors or suppliers, any permits, and of course, the project is done on many sites. So project's an interesting way to group work together across multiple sites and then have multiple site activities with site activity features. So we'll show you how to draw on the map and then also import site activity features here as well. Another thing that you can keep track of is the progress on that site so that you can track status for the site. And then you can track any grant assignments that are contributing funds to the work on that site. So these three things together, contacts, landowners, and projects, make up the bulk of what Confluence is typically used for. There are other areas around events, outreach events, and coordination events. These have not been as widely used, but they are available should you like to use them. Funding, there's fundraising and grants. This has been more sporadically used, but there are some interesting tools there to help you keep track of some grant funds and connect it back to your financial management system, say QuickBooks, for example, if that's what you're using. Then in addition, there's some planning records that you can keep track of here around plan assessments and general work plans throughout the year. So that's what you can store and manage in Confluence. Let's talk about a little bit about why you would want to do that. One of the driving reasons and the original motivations to start Confluence was to really keep track of your records, get them out of random documents or shoe boxes or spreadsheets and get them into a centralized place where your whole organization can utilize that data and have access to the latest data. And then also when it comes to reporting time, you've already captured most of the data that you need for your reporting, and you're not in this 2-week process of trying to gather all the data together from everybody through email or going through your notebooks. You actually try to get the data into Confluence and keep it up to date. The other reason is to standardize how you capture the data and how you report it out. So that's a very important concept here, especially with the model watershed program in the soil and water conservation districts, where you have structured reports that you need to provide to your stakeholders and your project sponsors. So this gives you a way to capture data in a disciplined way. Now, with discipline comes some constraints. And so we'll go through a little bit about some of the constraints Confluence puts you in. It can feel like it's a bit binding at times. We've tried to design it as nicely as we can to not make it too onerous. So hopefully you agree that you're saving time over the course of the year by keeping your data up to date in Confluence. But of course, you'll need to determine the best workflow for how you keep your data up to date to make it most efficient for you and your group. And if you have questions about that, go ahead and ask. JP has a ton of experience doing this, as do we, so we can help you kind of design your own workflow for how you keep your data up to date. JP, any other motivations for using Confluence you'd like to pitch in at this point?
I think you pretty much touched on it. I would just say that it's been pretty important with just the turnover in the model watersheds for the new person in whatever position to kind of pick up where the last player had left off. I was put in that situation, and I had to rely on Confluence to know what activities had been done and with which landowners. We rely on it heavily to track our landowners and landowner status and conversations and that sort of thing. And then as far as uploading activities, we primarily use that to update our funders, but we use it occasionally to just track what we're doing. Most of that I do internally on Arc, but you can do that in Confluence.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So from here, I'll come back to the Confluence homepage. Now, there are two primary ways to interact with Confluence. One is through the map. And of course, this works like any web map. And we'll go into some of the details around how it's especially enabled to help you get your data in quickly in a moment. The other main way to interact with your data is using the what we call the data grids. And the data grids are accessible through these menus here, and they're broken down by record type. And so you can see under projects, there's projects, sites, site activities, permits, and plant requests. Under landowners, there's landowners and tax lots. And under contacts, there's people, organizations, and contact lists. The first thing I wanted to do was to dive into the organizations and just orient you to the grids here. So this is Demo Watershed Council. It's on the famous Demo River in the mid-Willamette Valley. All the names have been changed to protect the innocent, so no worries there. This shows you a list of all of the organizations this council is working with, and you can scroll through this whole list, get a bunch of details, and this is generally how the grids work here. So I'll go ahead and you can do a quick filter down to any of these fields to type in quickly to filter to just the rows that you're interested in finding. So you just want to see those organizations in Albany, you can quickly get to that information. These buttons over here help you manage the grid. So you can reset the grid. You can get some help on how the filters work. And you can go ahead and show or hide the filters here if you want. You can also see how many records were filtered and what if the filter's in place, and click this to remove the filter. And then a really neat feature that is very popular is getting the data down to Excel. So we recognize Excel is a wonderful tool for grabbing data and keeping track of notes or sending off a report to somebody. So you can very quickly download the data from these grids into Excel. The other thing the grids allow you to do is start to edit the data. So you can create the records from here. So you can create an organization. You can also view and edit an existing record from the links down here on the rows. So I'll go ahead and start by creating a new organization. So we will call this Littleton Junior Inc. And you can provide a bunch of information here. I want to pause and highlight this editor as the main way that you get data into the system. So the whole framework that we use relies on these pop-up editors, and you enter data using these pop-up editors. And so what we're doing here is creating a brand new record in the database, and we're providing information about that organization here in these fields. And then you can give things a type of information. And then you can provide a note. And so this will go ahead and create this new organization with all this basic information already set up. All right. So that's an owner, actually lives at my home address. If you ever want to come visit, feel free.
Hey Brian, we've got a question over here.
Yes.
One sec.
So why would you create? What's the difference between creating an organization versus creating a landowner? Like, would the organization be the city?
The question is, what's the difference, or why would you create an organization versus a landowner? And versus a person. And so he'll get to some of the links, but first you need to have a person in order to have the others, but a person may be affiliated or may not be affiliated with an organization. It's just a way for you to track. And then you have to have a person or an organization created to have a landowner. So landowner sort of stacks on top of person or organization. Does that sound right, Brian?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So people and organizations are responsible for tracking contact information. The landowner record is responsible for tracking the tax lots and who's involved in working with that particular landowner. So there's quite a bit more detail than just a phone number and address in the landowner information. And we'll get to that in a second here. Good question. Okay, so I just created a Littleton Junior. So I was riffing off of this Littleton LLC that's already in. And you can see by filtering down to Littleton, I now see both of these records. And if I want to go edit that Littleton Junior record, I can go ahead and click on that view link, and I can see all the details now that I just typed in. So you can see all the information was just typed in. All right, so from this view, this is our edit pop-up. I can actually add a new address. I can add a new note. I can add a phone number. I can also edit it to edit the basic fields. So the email address, just the basic string things that aren't other records in the system, I can edit directly here. But these other things, I need to actually use the drop-down menu next to the edit button to edit the things that are tracked as separate records in the database. So this is a subtle thing in the system that's important to understand is if you don't see the thing that you think you should be able to edit when you click edit, hit this little drop-down window and you can go ahead and add a new note, add a new address. If you want to add or edit an existing address, you can click through to that and edit that particular record. So I can actually switch that over to a shipping address and then save that. The other cool thing is when you're in this mode of viewing this record, you can click through to all the different records that are related to it. So I can go ahead and click back to this Littleton Jr. So basically this lets you surf around the different records. And this is where you need to kind of keep in mind the different relationships that are built in that I showed in the help. So it's an important aspect of this system. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll close this. We'll go back to contacts. If you ever get lost, just go back to the grid, the main data grid that you're working with, and we'll go and switch over to people. So I'm not sure if I'm already in the system or not. I'm going to check. Yep, there I am. So I'm going to go ahead and add myself to the new organization that I just created. So I just went to the edit menu, clicked the link, and now I'll go find the organization that was just created. I can scroll down and I can see a way to find the organizations. So I'll go ahead and click Find Organizations. I'm going to search for Littleton. And I'll select that organization that I just created. And so when I click OK, what's happening is I'm linking my record here in the database, Brian Knowles, to the Littleton Jr. organization. And I'll call myself CEO, I guess. So there we go. Now, if I want to get back to Littleton, I can click here. This viewer also keeps track of your history. So you can click this drop down here on the history link, and this will show you the recent records that you were looking at in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump back to Littleton, the organization, using this link here. So this is just another way to navigate around. You can also clear your history if you ever want to using this little button here, or just go back to the very last thing that you were on using this button here. Okay, so here I am. I'm on the organization again, and you can see that I've been added here as one of the people that belong to this organization. So I'll close that. Now, one thing that people often do is keep records of when they contact folks or what types of ways they want to connect with people in the future. So a common way to do this is to create a contact list, and then you can associate the people that you want to contact under that list to that list. I'll go ahead and create a contact list. So we'll do a winter 2017 outreach list. This will be folks we need to check back with. In early 2017. We'll save that. So we just created a brand new contact list record. I can go ahead and there's some powerful tools under these tabs under the edit view. So I'll go ahead and click over to there where I can edit contacts. And this gives me a way to actually go ahead and quickly search for a contact and add them to this list. So I'll just go through and we'll also contact all the Bobs or Bobbies. So that's a way to quickly create a contact list and add folks to that list rapidly. Save the contacts. And then I'm able to do an export, either a deduplicated export or a full export. The deduplicated export deduplicates by address. And so if you're doing a mailing, you don't flood one address with multiple mailings. The full export is good for phone calls or emails. Then you click that, and you can go ahead and download that file with all the contact information for the people in that contact list. Okay, any questions at this point?
No questions here. One thing that I was gonna maybe add is just to put it in sort of on the ground perspective is that usually, I believe all the tax slot that was originally uploaded into Confluence, all those names were automatically entered into the database as people, as individual persons. Is that right?
No, not quite. So there are facilities for uploading. Yeah, good question. You can go ahead and import people using a spreadsheet style here. And so you can paste out of a spreadsheet that's structured in this way and go ahead and do a bulk import of contacts. So if you've got a list of people that you haven't added or a list of organizations that you haven't added before into Confluence, you can go ahead and import those. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. And so one thing I was going to say is that when you say you're doing your outreach and you meet somebody, that's when you're adding in that person. And then once you find out they're a landowner that you want to work with, you make them a landowner, you set their status as, and he'll get into that. But you have to have your person in there before you can make a landowner out of that person. And then you're going to be basically in Confluence interacting with the landowner to set like up your activities and your sites. And so you have to have your person or organization in to interact with the landowner in Confluence. Okay.
Okay, so that's the data grids, and that's a primary way to interact with the system. And if you ever get lost or confused, these are your home bases. Just come back to where you started on the data grid you started on, and you should be good to go from there. One other main way to interact with the system is using the maps. And this map on the home page has been enabled with some actions so that you can actually go ahead and do some of the basic functions. I did forget to point one thing out too in the help. The help does have a list of common tasks. Right now we have 3, create a contact, create a landowner, add a site activity. This is actually live, lets you create it right here live in real time. So it's a cool way to, if you forgot how to do a particular task, you can come to the help and just go through the steps that are outlined here in the help. And so as you can see, we just basically went through create a contact in the demo. Next up, we'll be going through creating a landowner, and then finally we'll go through adding a site activity today as well. But if you ever forget exactly how to do it, you can come back and see the steps here on the help screen. All right, a more fun way to do it, I believe, is going through the maps. And so we'll go ahead and zoom in here. This works like any web map, double click or mouse wheel to zoom. It's got the zoom controls out here. The layers can be controlled over here. So you can go ahead and turn it on and off the different layers. We've got different base layers, watershed boundary, the model watershed boundary, the flow line, which highlights the streams, riparian status, sub-watersheds. You can even turn on all the tax lots. You can see the landowners, and they're colored by status. So if we go ahead and click the legend down, you can see how the landowner status is colored here. So works like any other web map that you are probably accustomed to. So we'll go ahead and leave that on like that. I'm going to zoom into a piece of property that will kind of link up a nice area on the confluence here, and the main stem of the Willamette. So it's this little sliver of land that we haven't contacted yet. So if you're wondering who owns the land to the north, or to the south rather, no, to the north, up downstream, sorry, I get confused on the Willamette. This is Littleton LLC owns this land. That's the landowner record. This is the tax lot record. And here's the site. And you can actually click through to see the details on here. You can add a status update. So we were just out talking to them, and finally they decided that they were interested. And we talked to them Friday. So here I'm able to add a new status update. I'll save this. And this shows the new record that we added to that landowner record. I'll close it, and the map will refresh, and well, should see that update. I think I messed that up. Let me change that. I think I need, let's go ahead, access granted, and we'll do that well in the future to make sure that date. The latest status update is what takes precedent. There we go. Okay, so they've expressed interest to start to work with us. There's this landowner. It's actually a different company that owns this. So we'll go ahead and we'll create a new landowner record here for this tax lot. So we'll click the add to landowner. And we'll do a create a new landowner. So this is and, let's go ahead and say they're interested, and we'll put the time we talked to them and the time we first visited. Click save. All right, select, and now we have a new landowner record. All right, so this is our new landowner record. You can see we're on our editor for this landowner. A few important things happened when I clicked on that and added that new landowner record. We went ahead, we added the tax lot. So this is the tax lot that we had clicked on the map. We have our status here. Interested. We have the note that we created. What we don't have is who the owners are. So we need to go ahead and add the owner information. So we'll go ahead and click the add owner button here. And we'll look at recently viewed people, and we'll call, whoop, no, I'm not the owner, the company is. So we'll go ahead and say Littleton Jr. is the company. So now we can see that the owners are Littleton Jr. Now I am the contact, so we want to go ahead and add the contact information for me, that I should be the one that you talk to. So we'll do recently viewed. Select Brian as primary contact, and call myself the land manager. So now I've created a contact on that landowner record. We'll close out of that, and you can see the tax lot has been updated to yellow to show that there's interest in participating. All right. Let's say a few weeks go by, I get a call back that they're ready to go. So you can quickly come in, add a status update to interested. Say it happens right before Christmas.
Brian,
Say,
question, sorry to interrupt.
sure.
We're just wondering how to change a landowner.
I tried that before and it wouldn't let me remove the old one.
Audrey had tried that before, but was unable to remove the previous landowner to add the new one.
I added the new one, but the old one.
Or the old one stayed after she'd added the new one.
And I don't want to lose any like the old notes, the old one that are associated.
Oh.
Yeah, there's different types of changes, right? There's landowners that come in and purchase the land from the previous owner. In that case, you would likely switch the contact information on the landowner record if you've already done work on that property. You don't want to lose the record of that work happening on that property. So you probably change the contact information. So let me go back to that. So I'd remove the owner. Let's say Littleton bought it out. So I can go ahead and add the owner and say Littleton LLC actually is now the owner. So this landowner updated to reflect who the owner is. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I believe so. We're following along. If you give me just 1 second.
Okay.
So then where does the history with the previous landowner, does that just follow the tax lot and the previous landowner goes away?
So the question is, where does the history with the previous landowner go? So I think if you're just removing the contact, all the landowner information and history stays
With the tax lot?
Stays with the tax lot, essentially. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, that's what you need to determine on a case-by-case basis. Do you want the history to stay with the tax lots? In that case, you do what I did, and you change the owner. If you want the history to change with that individual or that organization, you would move the tax lot to a new tax lot record. So you create a whole new tax lot record. The problem with that is if you've done work with on that property, you lose the history of that work, potentially. So it's a case-by-case basis depending on how many site activities. If you've ever done project work on that site, you likely would just want to come in and change the owner information.
I guess you could put a note in there of who the previous owner had been, if you want that.
That's typically
direction.
right. So you could put a note, if you change the owner, you could just put a note that the previous owner was such and such person.
That's right. Or you could add them as a contact here.
Okay.
So mine still doesn't remove all that. Now I just have like a bunch of names. It only removed it. So
Okay.
maybe we can just look at it
Yeah.
later.
Okay, we're good to go.
All right. Couple other features while we're on the subject of landowners here. You can go ahead and view the map of the tax lots that are involved. So this lets you zoom in and see the tax lots. You can add all kinds of stuff here. You can add status updates from here. You can add tax lots from here. And then you, of course, can add notes and do all these other secondary activities here. You can do agreements and update agreements. So you can quickly say that they've agreed to all full access here. So you can save that. You can track potential projects. So let's say they're considering fencing, they'll definitely do re-veg maintenance and planting and prep. Go ahead and enter those dates. You can track notes with that, save that detail. If you talk to them about programs to enroll in, you can go ahead and work with them on that and track that you're doing that. And then likewise, you can do the same with restrictions. So no restrictions. You can also add documents. So if you have letters or easements or any information that you want to go along with this landowner record, you can go ahead and add different Google Drive, Dropbox, or local documents here. Any other things to highlight about a landowner? It's very important, obviously, for outreach and then transitioning into project work. JP, you have anything? Steve? Okay. All right, next up, we'll dive into project work and creating sites and site activities. So once you've gotten agreement to do work, the first thing you want to do is make sure you update your status to project work here. We're going to do some project work, and we'll say we're going to start that first of the year. So if we close this, we'll see that we've now gone to a status of blue for this landowner. I'll dive back in to this landowner by clicking on the map. You can see we don't have a site yet set up, so we'll go ahead and do that. Now, site's required because that basically is what you attach your site activities to. Come down here to create site. And you can name the site. Right now, sites are directly connected to a landowner. So a landowner and a site are what we call a one-to-one relationship. And so we'll call that Littleton Re-Veg. You can put in a reference number. We'll put a start date, stop date. So we'll make this go through next year so we can do some interplanting. Go ahead and create that site. All right, so by now I'm sure this looks familiar. This is editing the site. The little icon here helps tell you that. It's a site, not the landowner. It's related back to our landowner. Little handshake agreement indicates that. You can actually show some of the details of the landowner by opening that little caret there. That drops down all the details of the landowner. And you can click through to the different information within here. So it's a really handy way to browse around. Coming back up, you can see a map and also documents associated with the site. So a project manager might want to track the map and document information here. We'll go back to the info. And the main thing that you'll probably usually do from here is go ahead and add site activities. You can see we have no site activities yet, but we'll want to go ahead and add one. I'll click on Add Site Activity, and this is where we actually start to build out our project plan for this particular site. We'll go ahead and select some prep. And we'll attach it to one of our ongoing re-veg projects that we've got. And let's go ahead and pick a demo project, but this would be maybe some re-veg, actually do this riparian planting project.
Brian, we had a question before you get too deep into the site activities.
Yeah.
So my question is, if you've got a landowner who owns multiple tax lots in totally different areas, they're different sites, I think is the right term for those, and they exist within different projects. Is that something that can be worked around, or is it better to just like name the landowner, like in my case, Ed Vital 2 or something like that?
The question is, if you have a landowner with multiple tax lots, which might have multiple sites and multiple projects, and do you need to identify each site as a different landowner? And I believe the answer is that you can have a single landowner. Actually, no, actually, Brian, can you answer that?
Yeah, no, so for example, you're working with a forest management company and you've got completely disparate tax lots in different areas. The recommendation has been to create 2 landowner records, one for each area. And then you can associate the tax lots in each area and track those separately from each other more easily. So for example, if they're not ready to move forward with one area, but they are with the other, you can advance the status of the landowner on that one landowner record, create the site, and then the site activities for that one area. Now, what ties it all back together is it would be the same organization that connects those 2 landowner records together.
So would you maybe name that, for instance, Hall 1, Hall 2, Hall 3 for each different tax lot, which have different sites?
That's right. Yeah. So you can put in a different name for that landowner. So I can demonstrate that here momentarily. I'm kind of in the middle of the site activity. I don't want to close it.
Very clear.
All right. Yeah, that's clear. Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So back to site activity. We'll go ahead and select the types that you want to add. We'll do a preparation and click OK. There's no subtype for these. We'll put a start date. So we'll start prep and go ahead and end prep in the first few weeks of January. You can enter some budget information, connect it back. If you had a GIS record already, you could connect it back to there. If you had a record in a different project management system or something like that, you could connect it there as well, and then click Save. All right, here we are. So we've added our first site activity. It's given a number. These are useful just to keep track of the specific activities you're talking about. It's connected to our project and it's connected to our site. From here, you can actually start to map out where you're going to be doing the work. So let me make sure we have the right area up. And we'll go ahead and you can draw points, lines, or polygons. So maybe we have some points of interest here. We can just drop those down. We can go ahead and annotate those. So perhaps we saw some knotweed in these particular spots. Can annotate each of those. There's that. And then, of course, we've got blackberry. Who doesn't? Create an area here for the blackberry. Those may be areas that you want to go spray. You can select features using this tool, and you can edit features using this tool. Perhaps this needs to be a little further to the east. Then I can go ahead and save those items. All right, you can also delete features from here, and generally just do all the kinds of rough geospatial things that you like to do. All right, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this whole screen. You now have our 4 features listed here. We've got 3 knotweeds and a blackberry. And for revegetation prep, we actually track by acres. So we automatically calculate the area of the polygon to give us the 1.75 acres of re-veg prep. And this is actually what gets aggregated together with all your other site activities for the year of 2017, and that will actually show up on your annual reports, which I'll show you here in a second. So we'll close this. Come back here. Whoops. We'll turn on the site activity layers, and you can see the area that we just added in. So any questions about that whole process? Just went through quite a bit, but I want to make sure that that makes sense.
No specific questions at this point.
Okay. We can go ahead and do one more, and then we'll set up the planting. So I'm going to click here, click into the site, do add site activity. We'll add our planting. Go ahead and find our project this time. What's the name of that project? Oh, we'll go browse for it.
It's demo project 20.
Oh, riparian planting. There it is. All right. So now we've got our planting here. We'll call that planting. It's planned. We'll plant that in the second half of January. Give it a budget, and we'll go ahead and save that. Now we have our planting event. I'll quickly map out where we're going to be planting. So in general, we'll do this area here. Perhaps we'll just do a big area here. ahead and save that. I'll refresh this view. We'll come back to the front and we'll see, okay, it's 13.09 acres of re-veg planting for 2017, given the one feature here. All right, and then we know already that we want to do some interplanting next year in the same area. So I can go ahead and extend the site activity. This will create a duplicate site activity and stage it up for next year. So it's a way that you can kind of plan ahead on the things that you need to do. We'll do it during the second half of January again. We can copy the features over. And make a note. So we extended this, and since it's interplanting, we can go ahead and edit this record and change this to an interplanting and save that. Okay, so we come back and we now see our planting activity here. Both of those planting activities are represented here, and I can get to them from the map. All right, one other way to get to this data is through site activities. So we'll click over to the site activity data grid, and we'll go ahead and got the Littleton here site, and we've got the preparation and planting site activities. You can click here to get back to them. So that's full circle how you navigate through the map, create site activities, and then navigate back through the data grid. And you can, of course, then export these and give it to your project manager or to your contractors. All right, so that's site activities in a nutshell. I think next up, we're going to move on to some of the ArcGIS integration pieces. Is that the next place we want to head, JP?
I believe so. We had one other question or somewhat issue come up. I'd like to go over real quick, if that's possible.
Sure.
When you were drawing the site activity in the map view, there's a toolbar, at least on one of the laptops over here, that's conflicting with the map functions so that you can't access all the map functions, that because the toolbar is covering it. There's like a create site activity toolbar. Once that came up, we couldn't access some of the map functions. So,
Yeah, these buttons
overlapping. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those. If you zoom in or out with your browser, so if you zoom your browser view in and out, you can get those to fit better if you zoom out. If you zoom in, they overlap. We need to address that. So we'll go ahead and take a note on that.
Okay, thank you.
How do you like I clicked on Scott Polygon and now
Okay, quick survey. How many folks are using ArcGIS today to manage site activity features?